President-elect Donald Trump's hush money criminal trial was not televised, and so the main way we know what happened is through the eyes of the few journalists who sat through the trial to cover it. Jonathan Alter is an author, columnist, historian, and documentary filmmaker. His latest book is an account of the trial combined with his personal reckoning of the challenge to his commitment to democracy. American Reckoning, Inside Trump's Trial, and my own, is out now, and John joins me now. John, good to see you. It's been a while. Let me get right into it with you. There are these two reckonings, Trump's trial and your own, where you sort of question your commitment. So why did you do both of those things together? Why not one or the other?
Well, they were very much connected. So I felt that I was having a concern about my own faith in the good sense of the American people, that faced with a man who, is clearly, I believed, unfit for office, a con man, that so many would support him. And of course, in the ultimate reckoning, the big jury just last week acquitted Donald Trump. But there was this trial, the only criminal trial an American president has ever faced in our entire history. And I wanted to bear witness at that trial. And because it wasn't televised, to tell people about what happened inside that courtroom, which was very dramatic.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out soon whether he is sentenced or not. That's going to come up
Right, that's over the next week on the 26th. By the way, the big jury is a reference you make in the book. You're referring to the electorate when you talk about that. The first part of the book, just a quick question. That's your kind of personal memoir here. You've had this Forrest Gump life. I mean, from Eleanor Roosevelt sitting on your mother's bed, Martin Luther King Jr., how you come across all of these people. But my question is, with all those interactions people can read about, is that what led you to become an idealist, but one without illusions?
Yeah, I think that's about right. So I grew up in Chicago on the North Side. My family was very political. My late mother, Joanne Alter, was the first woman elected to office in Cook County in 1972. And Dr. King came to our house when I was a small boy, and I got his autograph on my third grade school lined paper, and so I grew up steeped in politics, and then I became a journalist and a columnist at the old Newsweek, and I got the chance to interview 9 of the last 10 American presidents, either before, during, or after they left office, all of them except Ronald Reagan, going back to Nixon. And so I really had a kind of a front row seat on a lot of history, and I developed a real reverence from an early age for the office of the presidency. And I was really disillusioned by not just by Trump's performance and Trump's contempt for our Constitution, but by the fact that so many Americans, whom I respect, went along with this, and obviously in a big way.
Well, let me give you a little.
So I grapple with all of that in the book, and it's kind of a cry for democracy inside those two covers.
Let me go inside a little bit, because one of the points you make in the book is that through the years, Presidents Carter, Clinton, Obama all told you that the job of the president was to react to events. Now, former President Trump kind of got off easy in his first term. He didn't have a lot of those kinds of events to react to. Is it your expectation that his relationships with Putin and Xi of China and Kim Jong-un, will he skate through a second term as well?
Well, we don't know, but he did have a big event to react to, COVID, and he fumbled that so badly that he was defeated for re-election, whatever he claims, and then he tried to stop the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in our entire history. And of course, that peaceful transfer of power is at the core of our democracy. It's established by George Washington and John Adams, and that's part of what defines us as democracy. So what I'm concerned about really is, in addition to his relationship with these strong men who he respects and who will quite possibly be able to manipulate him with flattery, what I'm most concerned about is how he responds to the requirements of the Constitution. And he's not off on a good foot this week. He's trying to say that he should be able to run roughshod over the Senate, which is defined in the Constitution as being responsible for confirming his cabinet, Trump doesn't want that. He wants to be able to put in his cabinet choices without interruption.
Yeah, well, and we'll see whether
Senate.
new leader
So
in the Senate,
these
John
are-
Thune, goes along with that. Let me just ask you this, because I want to use our time if I can.
Yeah.
You talk about going over the Constitution, but of course, the Supreme Court has to step into that. When you look at the Citizens United case of the past that kind of opened up the doors to money and the recent Trump immunity case from last term, my question is the Supreme Court, as you see it, more of a political entity now than ever before?
Well, I don't know about ever. I mean, the Dred Scott decision in the 19th century.
Well, we take
was
it back, yeah.
pretty terrible. But yes, I do think the Supreme Court is acting in a political way, but not all the time. People have to remember that in 60 cases that Trump tried to bring when he was trying to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 election, the Supreme Court wouldn't review those 60 cases. And there were a number of other times when they ruled against Trump. So I don't think people should assume that the Supreme Court is a rubber stamp. But by, issuing this immunity decision, basically saying that a president is immune from prosecution for anything that he does in office, anything related to his official duties, they have seriously emboldened Trump to be a lawless president. And that's not something that just, journalists and Democrats are saying. This is something that, the people who used to work for him, senior Republicans, senior advisors, they are saying this too, that they're extremely worried that he will be a lawless president, a strongman president.
Well, and John, let me just,
he intends to be.
before I lose you, there's lots of little tidbit stories in here too, like Nancy Pelosi's involvement and Biden stepping down. People need to read the book for all of that. But just briefly, in the end, Trump beats all the legal charges. The delay, whatever, it all worked. My question is, are you left with, do you see the system as fundamentally flawed? Are you skeptical or cynical these days?
I'm not cynical. I'm skeptical, but always hopeful, as our fellow Illinois resident Abraham Lincoln tried to be even during and after the Civil War. So we have to stay hopeful. We have to gird to fight Trump when he tries to trample the Constitution. And what you get in this book is a look at the only accountability we're likely to have, that jury verdict, the judge in charge. And we need to take our accountability where we can get it.
All
and
right.
We did get it in this case.
John Alter, congratulations on the new book. For more information on the book, find John on social media or visit jonathanalter.com. Great book on Carter, too. Thank you, John. We'll be right back.
Thank you so